Imagine a man whose face once appeared on America's most wanted terrorist lists, with a 10 million bounty on his head. A man who fought in Iraq alongside Al Qaeda, was imprisoned, reborn in the chaos of the civil war, and today leads Syria as its president. This story, though it sounds like a complex political thriller, is the real-life reality of modern Syria. This is the story of Ahmed al-Sharaa. Ahmed Hussein al-Sharaa was born in October 1982 in Saudi Arabia to Syrian refugee parents originally from the Fik region on the Golan Heights, territory lost during the 1967 Six-Day War. The Sharaa family was once wealthy landowners with a lineage allegedly tracking back even to the Prophet Muhammad himself. His grandfather participated in the resistance against French colonialism in Syria. His father Hussein actively opposed the Syrian Ba'ath Party, which led to his imprisonment and eventual exile to Iraq, where he later studied and worked before returning to Syria years later. Ahmed grew up listening to stories about lost land and national injustice. He spent the early years of his life in Riyadh until about the age of 7, before moving with his family to Damascus. It was there, in the aristocratic Maza district, that the young boy who would later trade a peaceful life for radicalism came of age. The turning point in his life came on September 11, 2001. Young Ahmed was shaken by the tragic events and ongoing conflicts in Palestine and Iraq. According to the sources, he began participating in extremist meetings and seminars soon afterward, and in 2003 until 2004 he traveled to Iraq to join Al Qaeda under Abu Musab al-Zarqawi. In the brutal reality following the US invasion of Iraq, he was responsible for car bombings targeting American forces and helped recruit and coordinate waves of fighters. In 2006, he was captured by the US forces and imprisoned in some of the harshest facilities, first Abu Ghraib, then Camp Bucca, where he caught the attention of intelligence agencies. He remained there without formal charges until 2011. Freed just as the Syrian civil war broke out, Ahmed returned to Syria in 2011 and immediately began making history. He founded Jabhat al-Nusra, Al-Qaeda's Syrian affiliate. At this point, he adopted the alias Abu Muhammad al-Jawlani to hide his real identity. In 2013, he took part in an attempt to establish an emirate in northwestern Syria, Idlib. He promised an Islamic emirate, but a full-fledged caliphate never officially materialized. In interviews from 2013, Sharaa appeared as a radical fundamentalist who did not recognize the place of minorities such as Alawites, Shiites, or Christians. His statements promoted Islamic rule without space for pluralism. However, in 2015, likely under pressure from the CIA and Mossad, he began using more cautious rhetoric. In an interview with Al Jazeera, he claimed that Nusra would not attack the West and that there was a division of duties between Al Qaeda and anti-Assad operations. In June 2016, he made another pivotal move, breaking official ties with Al Qaeda and reappearing publicly. His group rebranded as Jabhat Fatah al-Sham, and a year later as Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, HTS, which means the Levant Liberation Organization. The strategy was clear: fighting for control of Syria required broader support than just that of radical Islamists. Meanwhile, HTS quickly grew to dominate Idlib. In 2017, the Syrian Salvation Government was established, and Ahmed, as an informal leader, demonstrated organizational skills. He ensured steady electricity access, opened shopping centers and cafes, and even established a university for 18,000 students, from which over 60% were women actually. However, progress did not mean tolerance. Pluralism was lacking, and opponents, such as his former deputy Abu Maria al-Qahtani, were imprisoned. Qahtani reportedly died in a suicide bombing, according to an official investigation, though the circumstances remain murky and open to doubt. By early 2024, Sharaa was seen as a pragmatic leader. In February, he appeared in an interview with The Economist, speaking of plans for elections and rule of law, signaling a desire to reduce Iranian influence and build ties with Russia while rejecting US military presence. He publicly stated that all arms in Syria should be subordinated to the state, including those left by rebel groups and the US-backed Kurdish SDF, Syrian Democratic Forces. His image became more peaceful and pro-Western. He appeared in civilian attire, replaced bombs with bureaucracy, and gave interviews to BBC and PBS, calling for an end to sanctions on Syria. According to Sharaa, the sanctions targeted old regimes and only worsened conditions for civilians. In December 2024, rebel forces entered Damascus. A swift decision was made. Assad had to go. HTS and allied forces seized the capital, and Sharaa became the undisputed leader. Parliament was dissolved and the 2012 constitution was suspended. Citizens, traumatized by the regime's brutality, often welcomed him with hope. Syria finally had a chance for recovery and order. On January 29, 2025, he was officially appointed interim president by the rebel factions, tasked with forming a legislative council and a new government. In an interview, he said, "The priority is to fill the power vacuum, maintain civil peace, and build state institutions." In March 2025, Sharaa signed a 5-year transitional constitution, a blend of Sharia law and democratic aspirations. It established a peace process commission and promised elections within 4 to 5 years. The initiative aimed to separate the old security structures from politics, similar to post-invasion Iraq. However, critics warned that integrating tens of thousands of fighters into the army and administration could deepen sectarianism and open the door to autocratic rule under Sharaa. In May 2025, Ahmed al-Sharaa appeared in Riyadh for talks with Donald Trump, Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman of Saudi Arabia, and other regional leaders. The US president declared that sanctions would be lifted, calling Sharaa an incredible leader with a real chance to keep Syria peaceful. Turkey, Qatar, and Saudi Arabia also expressed interest in rebuilding the country and cooperating. But success was overshadowed by deep-rooted problems. In early spring 2025, major violent clashes erupted between rival factions on the coast with pro-government Alawites and among Druze groups with attacks and bombings. In just 2 days, over 1,000 civilians, mainly Alawites, were killed and tens of thousands were displaced again. In response, Sharaa established an investigative commission and promised to punish those responsible, including members of his own forces. However, this seemed more like a media maneuver rather than a true quest for justice. At the same time, more dictatorial moves emerged. Reports from Idlib indicated the anti-government protests against HTS were met with brutal crackdowns. Thousands were imprisoned, some released, but many tortured as well. Economic pressure was rapidly increasing. Tariffs, taxes, and restrictions triggered a social and economic crisis. While Idlib gained access to electricity, cafes, universities, and shopping centers, it also became a place of strict limitations and oppression. Some call it enlightened despotism. Today, Ahmed al-Sharaa, formerly Abu Muhammad al-Jawlani, is a man torn between past radical ideals and political pragmatism. He has many supporters and seeks stability and order after a decade of war, but others see a man playing both sides of terrorism and diplomacy, of caliphate and democracy, of harsh Sharia and Western ties. Ahmed al-Sharaa is a complex figure. Much like Syria's ongoing conflicts, his struggle is far from over. Today he holds Syria's future in his hands, a country that wants to erase war from its script and rebuild peaceful life. Will the truly democratic elections be held? Will al-Sharaa become a bold leader or just another autocrat puppet? Lifting the $10 million bounty on his head by the Americans strongly leads to believe that he is collaborating with the Americans and the Israeli side.